And this kind of circles us back to that mystical territory we were getting into, is that there is something in us that just knows.
Welcome to Life with Lennon. In this episode, you'll learn how Aristotle taught his students exactly how they can identify what they most want from life and why our initial assessments aren't actually going to give us the fulfillment that we most truly desire. You'll also learn 3 strategies for developing unstoppable commitment, what Ishtar calls single-pointed faith that will unlock hidden doors of opportunity for you so that you can live your best life possible and make sure that you leave absolutely nothing on the table. Ishtar is a monk, a yogi, an astrologer, and a world traveler who's joining us all the way from Portugal today. He's also one of my best friends and one of the most brilliant and interesting people that I've ever met in my entire life. I first met him about 10 years ago. We were both non-traditional students studying at university in our mid-20s. I had delayed university so that I could party, but Ishtar, he had spent his time practicing and teaching meditation at an ashram on the Oregon coast as well as around the world. He taught me the Ishayas Ascension, which is a meditation technique that I will be using for the rest of my life because during my first experience with it, it was so unique and so profound that I just committed to it and decided this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. This interview is one in a series of interviews that are dedicated to helping you make a brilliant comeback after you've stumbled, you've had a failure or a setback in your life so that you can recommit to your goals and accomplish everything that you want out of this life. So make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell to catch the future episodes. Without further ado, let's ask the monk, Ishtar, what advice do you have for somebody who has failed or experienced a setback for them and they now are looking to recommit?
Yeah, I mean, there's several things that come up to mind. I don't necessarily have them ranked in any order of importance, but you know, there's a lot on that subject. I mean, one thing, which, you know, it's all foundational, is it's important to actually know what you really want. I'm sure everybody else has kind of said that too. It's you know, one question that people, you know, come up with who struggle with that is, well, how do I like know what I really want? You know, if they've done a little bit of self-reflection, they might be like, you know, I thought I wanted that, but it turned out to be a shit show, and I realized in the end I really wanted something else. You know, one very simple, non-mystical, you know, even kind of easy way of doing that is actually mined from Greek philosophy, from Aristotle. And he would do this exercise with his students where you know, basically he would ask them, okay, what do you want? And they'd put something out. Maybe they'll put out a luxury car. You know, of course they wouldn't. A luxury chair, a luxury chariot, really nice sandals, like the nicest toga in town, or something like that. And they put that out, and then you say, like, well, is that what you want, or do you think that this thing is a means of getting something else? And if it was a means of getting something else, they'd have to reduce down to that. Then they'd examine that one. Is this in and of itself what you want, or is it a means for something else? And basically, of course, the exercise keeps going until they get down to whatever sort of atomic, you know, human desire they're really after, which doesn't negate necessarily, you know, going for anything up there. But there's a real power in having clarity for what you're really actually after in any given moment with anything. And oftentimes when you reach that clarity, a lot of those things on top of it actually will fall away, because you might come to the realization that, you know, that's not really going to scratch that itch. You know, that really isn't going to scratch that itch. I need to, you know, do something more fundamental. So I think that as a simple exercise is a wonderful, you know, way to, you know, approach the foundational stage of launching anything, because it might be that you don't even want to launch it.
Excellent. So, assuming somebody's done that work and they've realized or they've made a determination, like, yeah, this is going to scratch that itch, what would you recommend?
Yeah. Complete one-pointedness. That, you know, as you know, I don't like to use Hernan Cortez. He was, I think, a detestable human being as an example for anything. But the famous example is when Cortez landed with 119 soldiers on the beach in Mexico, facing a powerful Aztec empire with millions, you know, with I think tens of thousands of soldiers, warriors. You know, what he did was he burned his ships at the shore. You know, he had his men burn the ships, and then they were fairly well motivated to proceed and face whatever difficulty is achievable. So I think always an attitude of I'm going to do whatever it takes, short of doing something like terribly unethical or screwing over other people. But that aside, that one pointed focus, that commitment, that's what really does it in the end. You can have all the skill in the world, but if you don't have that commitment, all your tools and all your skills are just going to ultimately go to waste. When something really serious comes up, if something larger than that commitment comes up, then it'll be, a little bit for nothing. So I think really that's that one pointed faith is in what you're doing is so important, and as well as actually how driving teachers used to. At least when I was in driver's ed, one of the things that they did to sort of instruct the young driver was tell you, okay, look a ways down the road. Don't look at the stuff 10 feet in front of the car, but look down the road, and you'll find that you will naturally keep the car straight. You will naturally keep the car on the line, and I think that has a lot of application for much else in life. If you have that sort of sense of the North Star in what you're doing, you'll be able to kind of intuitively even wiggle and maneuver your way through all the thickets and the brambles that kind of typically come up in this messy world, which kind of reminds me of that famous Nietzsche quote, that goes something like, they who have a why can bear almost any how.
Yeah.
If you know your why and you have a strong why, you're going to make it through. You're going to learn what you need to learn along the way. You're going to ask for help. If you have that commitment, all those hidden doors are going to open for you as you move along. And here's where I get a little mystical, of course, is because I do think that there's this world is much more made of spirit and magic than of dumb rock, and so there's when you are connected with that vitalizing directional intelligence, innate intelligence that we all have, and when we connect to that via commitment, via that faith in the North Star, then the means have a tendency of providing the moving onto our path. It's really crazy, and it's happened so many times in my life in such strange ways that it's very difficult for me to discount it as circumstance or accident. And yeah,
I definitely agree with that. And it seems to me that like when we are on purpose, for every step that we take towards our goals, the universe takes one step towards us. And so I have a question about the burning of the ships, because this is something that I definitely personally struggle with. And I have like shiny object syndrome, and I also recognize that I have an abundance of options. And so it kind of has been easy throughout my past to shift from one option to another when that road gets rough, and I see this other road here that looks glorious, from afar. The grass is always greener on the other side. So maybe you can share something as a personal experience or general. How does one go about burning their ships when there are so many options in the world?
Oh, sure, absolutely. Well, and I'll preface again with, sometimes these are just heuristics. These are rules of thumb, different strategies, different ways. So of course, sometimes it might be a little bit foolish, and the wisdom from your soul, the wisdom from your intelligence is really pushing you, giving you more of the wisdom of, you've hit this brick wall 34 times, and you're going to hit it on the 35th too. So this is a message to go and go with the path of least resistance, and there's wisdom in that too. So you can't I couldn't make a rule one way or the other. But if we're talking about the valid strategy of one pointed commitment, I mean, oftentimes a person finds themselves in front of that big old salad bar and of life. If we're so lucky to have an abundance of options, and if you find that you're not moving at all, if you're not going in any one particular direction at all, then nothing is really getting satisfied. And so that's when we need to burn the ships. And there's no real secret to doing it. It's usually just overcoming the fear. Of course, the fear is missing out on everything else.
Right.
And there's no tricks that I could really relate to somebody. It's just like at a certain point you realize, you come to the realization like, oh my God, I've diluted my energy so many times before. I've done it this way so many times before, and I have a sense that this is one of those situations where it behooves me to actually take the chance of missing out on 6 options and just going for the number 7 option, and then be like an explorer or experimenter. You just have to go for it. You just have to take the leap, and because if you don't take the leap, you will not find out what's on the other side. You just be a branch tester. One will be testing branches eternally. At some point, we have to come to we all come to the point at which we're like, I'm just going to have to jump because I've not yet jumped yet in this life. Or I've jumped before, and I got a little bit burned, but this is a different moment, and I just have to do it. And I'm sorry, I can't have any more wisdom than that, or fancy tricks.
Oh, I think that's great. And it sounds like it's almost circling back to what you were originally talking about just being really, really clear about, is this the thing that I'm absolutely after? And by doing the first exercise that you're recommending, it's almost like it brings you to that point of one pointedness anyways.
Yeah, absolutely. Another strategy, if we're going to forego Aristotle's neat trick, sometimes we do have to learn by experience. And so I do advocate, there's that, I'm going to get the William Blake quote wrong. I'm just throwing all these quotes at you. It's so cliche. But there's this wonderful William Blake quote that comes to mind, which is something like, the path of excess is the road to wisdom, or something like that.
Oh.
And what he's getting at, and what Blake is getting at there is, an artist will know this, is if you want to do it, you got to throw yourself in. You got to go all in to what you're doing, because only then you're going to find out all these capacities that otherwise might be dormant. It's as if they have suddenly the energy to kind of be part of your life and be part of your existence. And and so in my life, I look back, and I had sort of this monomania most of my life, in which I would be completely obsessed with something, for a particular amount of time, kind of burn out of it, and then move on to something else. And in a certain sense, that's actually, I think, also a perfectly good pathway to finding what your true North Star is. You just, if you go all into something, you really will know if it's for you or not.
Right.
You really will experientially in your bones know, and then the lesson's over, and you don't have to look back on it anymore. You're like, well, I ate the fuck out of cheese for 7 years, and I could go another day and not eat it again, because I know cheese, and so I using both methods in concert is wonderful. And the third way, which is really a third way here, is meditation. That has, this kind of circles us back to that mystical territory we were getting into, is that there is something in us that just knows. There's something it's as if there is a tuning fork within us, and when we practice meditation, it's a wonderful means of kind of slowly getting the noise, all that excess noise, out of our minds and out of our nervous system, and out of all that excess tension out of our bodies, so that our tuning fork, one of the byproducts is that the tuning fork gets more refined, and that the yes or no question starts to become an easier sort of binary to answer. We're able to feel into which way we need to go through that means. And then we don't have to do Aristotle's method, and we can even dispose of the of the monomaniac obsessive method too, and save ourselves a little bit of time.
Thank you, Ishtar. This is awesome. I really appreciate you taking the time to answer these questions. And do you have any other just additional parting wisdom or anything you'd like to share as a last thought?
Yeah, really. I mean, I think one of the most transformational things that happened in my life was as a young teenager, being in a near-death experience, having a near-death experience, which happened through a car accident, in which I lost my mother, who was only 45 years old at the time, who seemed to be on, for the last 2 or 3 years of her life, she was really doing something that was much more aligned with what, where her heart was, with what she wanted to do. And it's a beauty to watch how her life was starting to change in many ways, from what I'd seen previously growing up. There was tensions were falling off. It was as if more pistons inside her were going on all at once. And apart from, I think, my own mystical experiences I had, just sort of seeing how quickly life can get cut short, how soon it can come to an end, was profound, was powerful. And there really left a sense of there's no time like the present. And you might read this in a book, and it's admittedly it's very hard to have somebody tell you there's no time like the present, and really maybe respond to it unless you kind of been to the door of death yourself and you really have seen. But maybe it helps, because you really never know when this picture is going to be over. And so it's start now. If you have something in your heart, start now. Even say it now. Forget about the practical considerations of, I'm going to have to wait for this to happen to do it, or that to happen. That's partially true, but don't let the practical considerations make you muffle your own heart just because it seems like it can't happen quite yet. No, don't do that. Don't do that at all. Like, allow yourself to live fully. Don't leave anything on the table. That was a big part of, say, my NDE experience, was the life review that so many people report going through, and it's not just a reliving of every moment of your life, which is weird and cool unto itself, but it's almost like a omniscient holographic reliving, in which you have some sort of omniscient intelligence there showing you every morsel and every ramification of it, not just in your life but in everyone else's. And that leaves one with a sense of how precious some of those little small moments that you might have forgotten were in your life. They all come back. Those little kindnesses, those little moments where you opened in love with somebody, instead of, and not just recoiling in fear, but just being blah and not being present, and just there you see the opportunities that you let slide by. And you also see the moments where you grasp the opportunity. And there's no judgment on the first one, but there is a noting that you could have played that note better. You could have leaned into it. And there's a great joy in all those moments where you really, let life move through you, where you didn't obstruct it, where you didn't block it. And it's not just the joy in your own life, but you can see it, you can feel it ripple out into everybody else. And we normally don't see that, because we kind of have a cloud over us. But those of us who've had an NDE, or have experienced similar things through meditation or psychedelics, or by accident, what have you, it's there. So don't go all in as much as you can. Don't leave anything on the table. That would be my advice.
Thanks, dude. I mean, your advice really spoke directly to me. So I'm sure that anybody that I share with, it'll speak to them as well.
Wow, I truly hope that you got as much out of that interview with Ishtar as I did. To learn more about Ishtar, visit ascension-meditation.com, as well as awakenedlightastrology.com. You can also follow Ishtar on Facebook under Ishtar Howell. Thank you again for watching this amazing interview. There's going to be more like this in the future, so please subscribe and hit that notification bell. Like and share with all your friends and family. Find more amazing content at www.lennon.life. May peace and blessing be bestowed upon all of you.